Today is the Mystery Box Challenge. I have been given a box of mystery Dollar Tree items and I'm going to take them and transform them into some beautiful pieces of home decor. My video today is sponsored by Cricut. My box was sent to me by Lisa from Row Country Crafts. Let's open it up and see what she's given me to work with. I am so excited to be part of this mystery box collaboration with several other YouTube ladies, and guess what? We all have the name Lisa. This is the lovely Lisa collaboration. Each of us was sent a mystery box full of Dollar Tree items from someone else in the group. There are 2 challenge items that must be used, and the rest of the items in the box can be used to help in the creation of our projects. I feel like I've got a box full of presents, and this is just as good as Christmas. Look at these awesome things that Lisa sent me to work with. My challenge items are the welcome wreath and the frame. Project number 1 is going to be this welcome wreath. We're going to take it and we're going to transform it. The first thing that I did was I decided I needed to paint it silver because I want to go along with the silver frame that was given to me as challenge item number 2. Now, if you know my projects, you know I typically like to work with gold, so this is going out of my comfort zone. I took my wreath outside and I sprayed it with some Rustoleum metallic spray paint in the shade Antique Nickel. I sprayed it over the top of the welcome wreath and then let it dry for 20 minutes. Then I flipped it over and I painted the other side. Again, I got in all those little nooks and crannies with the paint, and then I let it dry completely, which took 1 hour. Now I'm going to be using several of these peach and white roses that she sent me. I'm going to be putting them on my wreath. To go along with these roses, I'm going to make some paper roses as well. I selected New Project on my Cricut Design Space, then I hit Images. At this point, I wanted a specific project type, which was 3D. So I did a 3D box. I clicked that box, and then in the search bar, I typed in rose. I selected this first rose right here and hit Insert Image. This is the exact size I wanted, so all I needed to do was hit Make It, which sorted it onto the mats. There's 2 mats. I hit Continue, and at this point I selected my material, which was cardstock, and then I hit More on the pressure. The paper that I'm using is a double-sided Cricut paper. It has a beautiful floral design on each side of the paper, and it goes perfectly with the peach and gray color combination I'm using in this display. I hit the flashing arrow button, which loaded my mat, and then I hit the flashing C button, which began the cutting process. Once it was 100% done cutting, I unloaded my mat by hitting that flashing arrow button, and now I have my leaves. Immediately after I was done with my leaves, I went on to my rose, and I loaded it by hitting the flashing arrow button, and then I hit the flashing C button, which began the cutting process on my roses. After I punched out my paper roses, I needed to roll them up. I don't have a quilling tool, so I needed another solution. So this is what I am going to be using. I saw several other people use this and I thought I am going to give it a try. So I have my drill and I have a bobby pin. I placed the bobby pin in the drill and closed it tightly like I'd be putting in a drill bit. Then I took the end of my rose paper, not the center, the end, and I slid it through the bobby pin. I folded it down slightly and then I began to roll it up by pressing gently on the lever, which rolled the paper onto itself, creating the rose. Once my roses were formed, I slid it off the bobby pin. It was tight and I wanted it to be a little looser, so I dropped it onto the table and it unraveled just a bit. Then I got some hot glue and I placed it on the bottom of the rose, and there's this little circular flap, and I added some hot glue to that, and then I folded it onto the bottom of the rose, and then I let it dry. Then I had my paper stems and I put some hot glue on the end, and I placed 1 stem of leaves on one side and 1 stem of leaves on the other. I actually made 2 roses, and on the second rose I rolled the paper the opposite direction. That way I had 2 similar roses, but they were unique because the paper on the outside was different from each other. So how cool was this drill technique? It's like home improvement meets crafting meets a little bit of beauty. You know, whatever it takes, sometimes you have to use unconventional things to make some beautiful pieces. Now that I have all of my paper roses made, I'm going to take those roses along with my Dollar Tree roses and add them to my wreath form. I pulled the plastic roses off of the stem. I also pulled the leaves off of the stem, and then I pulled that plastic part off of the bottom of the leaf, and I put some hot glue on the leaf and I pressed it directly onto the form. I also added some hot glue to the bottom of my rose, and then I added that to the wreath form as well. And then I took my paper rose, I added some hot glue to the bottom of that, and I pressed it into the center of this 3-rose design. And finally, I added my white rose. I just added another little bit of hot glue and I pressed it to the form. I then repeated the process of these 3 roses on the upper corner of my wreath form. I added those roses, the leaves, and my paper roses to finish off the beautiful transformation of this wreath. To make this wreath stand upright, I got a silver mercury glass candle holder, and inside I added some floral foam. Then I took my wreath and I placed it in the center. I got several floral pins. I pressed those floral pins around the wreath form and into the floral foam, and now it will stand up straight. So what do you think about the transformation with challenge item number 1? It's a pretty good one, right? I really loved these pink votive candle holders. The geometric design on the glass is so unique and different, and the silver rim around the top with the dots looks so high-end. What I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them together to create one large candlestick base. I added some E6000 to the bottom of one of the votive candle holders and pressed the second votive candle holder onto the top. I let this dry for 1 hour. I also have these pretty pearls that came in my box, and I wanted to add them to the center of the votive candle holder. I'm going to teach you a little trick that I've used in the past to get everything even and facing the right way. I'm going to get some fishing line, and I'm going to add the pearls to the fishing line. I got a segment of about 1 foot, I tied a knot at the bottom, and then I just threaded on my pearls onto this fishing line. I added a bit of hot glue into the dip where the 2 votive candle holders meet, and I pressed my pearl into the hot glue. And then I just continued to add the hot glue and the pearls all the way around the perimeter of the newly formed votive candle holder. Once I was done, all I had to do was pull that fishing line right out, and I hot glued my last pearl into place. Isn't that an easy solution? That way you're not sitting there pressing one little pearl on one at a time. All of them are facing the right way and they're evenly spaced out. Now at this point, it is really pretty as is, but because my color scheme today is peach and silver, I'm going to paint it silver, the same color that I used on my wreath. So I got that Rustoleum spray paint. I took it outside, I sprayed my piece with the silver spray paint, I let it dry for 20 minutes, flipped it upside down, sprayed it again, and I made sure that I got inside of the votive candle holder so that you didn't see any of the pink that was coming through from the original color. And once I was done completely painting, I let it dry for 1 hour. I'm going to add a tall glass candle holder to the top of my base. Again, this is from the Dollar Tree, but before I do it, I want to add a little bit of embellishment. On my Cricut design space, I hit New Project, I went to Images. In the search bar, I typed in ruffle border. Several border options came up. I selected this one and I hit Insert Image, which took it to my design space. I unlocked the size. That way I was able to make a custom size that would fit around the perimeter of my vase. I hit Make It and it sorted it onto my mat. I clicked Continue, which brought me to my materials, and I selected vinyl. And on the pressure, I put more. I chose a really cool holographic rose vinyl. I loaded it into my mat by hitting the flashing arrow button, and then I hit the flashing C button, which began the cutting process. Once it was 100% done cutting, I unloaded my mat by hitting that flashing arrow button, and now I have my vinyl border. With my scraper tool, I pressed the vinyl and the backing together, and then I was able to easily peel up the vinyl away from the backing. Next up, I took my transfer tape and I put it over the top of my vinyl. With my scraper tool, I pressed them both firmly together, and then I was able to easily peel it away from the backing. At this point, I took my border and I placed it on the bottom of my vase. I carefully lined up the bottom of the vinyl to the bottom of the vase and wrapped it around the entire perimeter. Then I got my scraper tool and pressed the vinyl to the vase. Then I removed the transfer tape, and now I have a beautiful border around my vase. Another item that we're going to use from our mystery box is this peach ribbon. I added a little bit of hot glue to the ribbon, and then I wrapped it around the base of the glass candle holder. Once I was finished, I added some hot glue to the bottom of the candle holder and pressed it on top to the base of the votive candle holders to create one large candle holder. I added a flicker flame candle inside, and then I placed it into a tall lantern that coordinates with my gray and peach color scheme. I also added some of these extra peach and white roses that cascade down, as well as some more of those peach ribbon. My second challenge item is this frame, and I'm going to turn it into a dry erase board using some dry erase Cricut Vinyl. In my Cricut design space, I hit New Project, and then I went to Images. In the search bar, I typed in rectangle. Several options came up. I scrolled down and selected this one and hit Insert Image. I selected and deleted the border around my rectangle, and then I unlocked the size so I could size it to the correct size for my frame. Next, I hit Make It. It sorted it onto my mat, and then I clicked Continue. At this point, I'm able to select my materials, which is vinyl, and I hit More on the pressure. I hit the flashing arrow button, which loaded my mat. Then I hit the flashing C button, which began the cutting process. Once it was finished cutting, I hit that flashing arrow button, which released my mat. Using my scraper tool, I pressed the vinyl and the backing together. I got my weeding tool and pulled away the excess vinyl. Then I got my transfer tape and I placed that over the top of the vinyl and pressed it together with my scraper tool. Next, I removed the vinyl and the transfer tape from the backing. I pulled the glass out of the frame and pulled that sticker off the front, and then I was able to put my vinyl on the front of the glass. I pressed the vinyl firmly to the glass with my scraper tool, and then I removed the transfer tape, and now the vinyl is on the front of the glass. I slipped it back into the frame, and now I have a dry erase board. To the top corner of my frame, I'm going to add another one of those paper roses. This is a larger paper rose, and so I needed a larger pearl. Luckily, I had some Dollar Tree pearls that were larger. I added some hot glue to the pearl and I placed it inside of my rose, and now it coordinates with the roses that are on the wreath. Now, if you're like me, you change your mind a lot, and so a dry erase board is awesome because you can write things down, you can erase it, and try again. This would be a great option for a menu for a dinner party or even some place cards. That way after dinner's over, you could erase it and have a brand new place card for the next party that you're gonna throw. You could also make a calendar. I mean, the list goes on and on and on with all the versatile pieces that you can make with dry erase vinyl. Okay, so let's go over all of the items that we used from our mystery box. We got our challenge items, which were our wreath and our frame. We also used those pearls. We used the peach flowers. We used the white flowers. We used the ribbon. We used both of those votive candle holders. And I still have so many other items that she had in that box that I'll be able to use for other projects later on. So thank you, Lisa, for sending me such a generous box of Dollar Tree items. I hope you all got some inspiration or some ideas today of how you can take some inexpensive Dollar Tree items and turn them into some beautiful pieces of home decor. This was such a fun collaboration to participate in. Make sure that you go to the next person on the playlist to see what they made with their mystery box items. I'm sure that you will be inspired by what they create. I will leave a link in my description box so you can check them out. I appreciate you all stopping by. Thank you so much for watching.